It makes me sick to my core. I speak absolutely with no shame or apology whatsoever as a beneficiary of one of the finest and most expensive educations in the land. But when parents like mine, when parents like me pay money to educate our children, we do so in the knowledge that it bestows an unfair advantage. It's a hypocrisy with which you have to live. It is that simple. You do it, my late dad would haunt me if I didn't extol the virtues of private education, because for the son of a man who grew up above a pub in Leeds to have ended up with the modest success that I currently enjoy would have, I believe, been impossible if I hadn't gone to the school that I'd gone to. I couldn't have been a gossip columnist. I know it's not a particularly prestigious career, but I couldn't have done it unless I'd been at school with people who actually got written about in gossip columns. And Dad explained it to me before he died a couple of times, and it was watching people fly past with less talent and knowing that it was because of the tie that they wore around their neck. So he bought me one, and I would never be able to repay him. So that's why I get so cross on days like today. There are two James O'Briens. There is the James O'Brien who went to Ampleforth College and went to the London School of Economics and nearly messed up all of these gifts and opportunities that he was handed by his parents who paid for me to have privileges and advantages. And then there's the other James O'Brien who didn't have any of it. I don't know where he'd be today, but I am absolutely certain he wouldn't be here. Now meet the 5th Baron Bethell, who went to Harrow School and inherited... What is the adjective for a baron? Is it a barony? He inherited the 5th Baron Bethell, sits in the House of Lords. I fluffed my A-levels, taught me how to hustle. First to get a place at university, well, forgive the typo. First to get a place at university and haven't stopped ever since. Grades are great, but grit and perseverance win every time. The 5th Baron Bethell extolling the virtues of grit and perseverance from a social media account that he probably set up on his House of Lords computer. And I am not being unduly personal about him because he sits in this government. He's a minister solely by dint of having inherited a barony. And he honestly can't see how disgraceful his comments are. He honestly can't see how children who have had none of the advantages and the privilege that he enjoys have been shafted by the government of which he is a member, and he genuinely thinks that talking of his own grit and perseverance, the 5th Baron Bethell, who went to Harrow School, he genuinely thinks that grit and perseverance played a greater part in his life than background and education. Born on third base, thinks he scored a home run. Born 3-0 up, thinks he scored a hat-trick. And I don't, at the moment, know how I get past this fury. It's a cold fury. It's a righteous fury. It's a fury on behalf of children that are not mine. It's a fury that is on behalf of children of parents, and I'm sorry, Mum and Dad, parents who've been gaslit into thinking that voting for this kind of perpetual privilege, voting to give further advantages to people born with the most glittering prizes already within their grasp, a system that normally implicitly encourages you to vote, to doff your cap, to tug your forelock, to see people born, for example, into a barony as somehow deserving even more advantage than your own children get. It's normally implicit. This algorithm did it explicitly. This algorithm inarguably and demonstrably delivered further advantage to the children born with the most. Children a bit like me. 1990. A-levels. Unable to take them because of a global pandemic. And boys who went to Ampleforth or Eton or Harrow, girls that went to Rodine or St Mary's Ascot, come out of a government-sponsored scheme with even more of a head start in life than the kids who went to the comprehensive school round your corner. It beggars belief. It really beggars belief. I kind of find myself baronetcy, is it not barony? Thank you. See if my parents can get a refund. The point, of course, is this. It would be really easy just to fix this one. And if there was even a scintilla of sincerity in the claim that they wanted to level up society, they would have fixed it already. If there was even the vaguest possibility of prioritising people over public relations, they would have fixed this already. Gavin Williamson would be back selling fireplaces before you could say Russia should go away and shut up. And here we are, 24 hours later, still surveying educational carnage. And one of the weirdest things I've seen on social media today is an argument about whether private education does bestow unfair privilege. Of course it flipping does. Otherwise you wouldn't pay for it. It's simply self-evident. Some of us have got the wherewithal and the self-awareness to admit it. And then you have the 5th Baron Bethell, who thinks that he's ended up being in the House of Lords because of grit and perseverance, despite inheriting a baronetcy. And again, I stress, he's a minister in this government. And so's Gavin Williamson. So 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. Just to tell me at the first, just vent. Just share your story and vent your spleen at the first hurdle. I would love you to explain to me that I've actually got this wrong and that there isn't grounds for fury, for concern, for upset. If you're an idiot and you're tugging your forelock so hard that you're in danger of actually falling over forwards, then you would claim now that because I went to public school, I'm somehow not qualified to make these comments. Yes, the reason why a certain type of commentator comes after people like me so much is because they know no one is better qualified to call out the unfairness of a system than the people who benefited from it. That's why they hate us so much. You sit there pretending that your talents and your gifts got you into government when you inherited a baronetcy. Jacob Rees-Mogg, send him to a bog-standard comprehensive school. Tell me where you think he would have ended up. Boris Johnson? You see what I mean? And that's fine. I can live with that. I understand. That is almost inevitable. Even if you abolish private education tomorrow, some of us would go without to pay for tuition. Some of us would prioritise education over vacation. Some of us would prioritise education over cars, over holidays, over whatever it may be. So you can't fix that. You can never make a level playing field. Some parents will always prioritise advantage in education for their children over everything else. Some parents, of course, probably barons, don't have to make choices. They can have it all. They can have the fancy holidays, the fancy cars, and the fancy educations. But if you have an opportunity to actually make things fairer, and you let it slip through your fingers like sand, you are disgusting. And to do it within less than a year, or since the election, just over a year since becoming Prime Minister, but within less than a year after campaigning on a promise to help people who most needed help, after campaigning upon a promise to level up our society and to take the most disadvantaged and try at least to give them some of the opportunities that people like me are born not even knowing we have, is an absolute disgrace. It's a disgrace to the party of opportunity. It's a disgrace to this country. But most of all, it's a disgrace to all of our children. All of our children. Those of us lucky enough to be born with advantage and privilege and with the honesty and the decency to acknowledge it. And those of us born without honesty, without the opportunity, without the privilege. So all they had to do yesterday, and all they could still do today, is just say sorry. We got this wrong. We did not realise what was going to happen. You can even spin one of your lies if you want, because we know that's really all you've got. You can't really pin this on foreigners, which is why you don't know what to do. You're spinning around. Where are the dinghies when we need them? You're spinning around like headless chickens. And let me tell you, all you need to do is say sorry and fix it. We'd even let you off the post-mortem. We'd even let you off the questions of how on earth Gavin Williamson could have sat in all of these meetings, or Nicola Sturgeon could have sat in all of these meetings and not asked what was going to happen. If you were doing Sanskrit at Eton College, you probably would have got your grade put up. If you were set to be the first person from a bog-standard comprehensive to go to Oxford University, you would almost certainly have seen your grade go down. And they can fix it now. They can fix it before the end of this programme. They can just do what they've done in Scotland. Say sorry. Admit they got it wrong. Square the circle and put these hard-working children from backgrounds that the average baron can only dream of back on the path to at least having a chance of bettering themselves, of levelling up.